Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, November 29th, 2021, and this is a meeting of the Personnel Subcommittee Group for the Gloucester Teachers Association negotiating team. I'll read the open meeting.
You might have to speak up, Kathy.
The meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with state open meeting law, consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and banning certain gatherings such that an in-person meeting of the school committee is not possible. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. I, for the record, will say that I am Kathy Clancy.
I'm Jonathan Hope.
Samantha Watson.
Kieran Frisch.
Selena Emmel.
Greg Pagnini.
Ben Lummis.
Roberta Eason.
We are just waiting for the
You speak up, you gotta speak, the mic's here.
so we are waiting for the Gloucester Teachers Association team to join us.
Russ?
Yep.
Yep.
On in.
We're sure how many seats you need, so if we can add something to do.
That's right.
You want to come down?
Sorry.
Thanks. Our attendance is down. Yeah. Start down in the end, just so. Yeah.
Just.
Oh, you have to go back to order.
We want to see if we can get everybody. People are asking.
Really create feedback and other issues if we all join.
I have to review and.
I haven't sent out any panelist links, so.
Yeah, so I think, does Cynthia need a panel link?
I thought you
I
said
thought
that.
you did, because we got 2 links now. No.
I don't believe any of us need those links.
If the people at home.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't.
Cynthia says that she didn't have a link, just the invite from you.
Right.
Are you gonna send her a link? Would you please send her? a link? She's
I
unable.
sent everybody an email today saying if
She
they
probably
wanted a
didn't
link to
catch
let me
that.
know.
I didn't get one today.
No,
Not-
nobody,
not a link,
I
just
did
a-
not send out a link.
No, I know, but the email that you did send, I didn't receive.
The invite.
Right, because you said you were coming.
No, he didn't have that option either.
Yeah, I didn't have
He
that
didn't
option.
receive that email that you sent us. We sent it.
No, originally, weeks ago, when this meeting was scheduled, I sent a Google Calendar invite. And Matthew and Rachel responded that they were coming, and Anthony. So I didn't send one
Oh,
today.
I see.
All right, gotcha.
Thank you.
So is Cynthia the only one that needs one?
Yeah.
So I guess if we could also receive the panelist link so that
We can
people
communicate.
can
go
see
in.
our faces close up the same way when
Yeah.
we were remotely. You guys were logged in as saying, you're on mute, but we'd be there if we could all get that link.
What do we do?
Did she already send you one?
No, but when we go on, do we just
Yeah,
mute?
I would,
Is that what?
yes. It'll be a bit different.
You have to turn the volume down.
Yeah, just mute it, turn it off.
Or just don't even accept the audio. Don't connect to the audio. Right, that's easier.
Now you're really challenging.
It is challenging.
That's part of
There will
it.
be
I'll just
feedback.
turn off
When it asks-
the audio.
when it asks you for audio, just say no. Okay.
It'll stick out if you don't, we'll know. Feedback will be
This has
allowed.
been really long.
In the notebook.
I know, right?
I have to tell you guys, it's much warmer in here than it has been in the prior.
You should come to my
You guys
room, it's
are
real
Here on a
hot.
great night, yeah,
Yeah.
the heat's working well.
It's like going for. That's all right.
Yeah.
I did. Incredible language difference.
right.
School committee, do you want links also?
Sure.
Should've just sent her a link.
Got it, got it.
Yep, I did, and we were working on getting the link, so we should all be joining in just a minute. Thanks, you're welcome.
Recording in progress.
Give me the option.
Progress.
We're just waiting, I think, for Cynthia to log in, and you folks too. Hi, Cynthia.
Howdy.
More space.
You know what to choose. Right, I'll for that.
Do you think we should go around the table and say who's here tonight, or
Yeah,
would it be a good time to start or not?
are we all logged in remotely? It looks like. Maybe for all of us, just to introduce ourselves now in person.
And then if you could offer some screen sharing, because we
Somebody has their microphone or speakers on.
counters or proposals.
I don't,
It's not me.
it's not on.
I think it was my mistake, sorry.
Right again.
But we had emailed you.
We got it, thank you. Yeah,
There were 2 emails, so there was a second one that we were able to complete
yep,
at the
we got the
11th hour.
second. Yep, thank you.
Great, and we can share our screen and show that information.
Sure.
I gave Anthony sharing.
You are wonderful, thanks.
Wait, did we want
Why don't we go
Yeah.
around and just say, we'll introduce ourselves first. It might make sense to start and then end.
Okay. I'm Carrie Donahue. I'm a GTA member and a 5th grade teacher at Plum Cove School.
Rich Francis, teacher at GHS.
Mr. Danaher, 7th grade ELA at O'Malley.
Good evening, I'm Rachel Rex, I'm the GTA Vice President and a teacher at Gloucester High School.
Someone has.
You may have,
That's
that might be you.
No, I'm Victoria.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry, excuse me. I'm looking at,
Hey, Roberta, you too.
not me.
Roberta, you gotta mute yourself and turn off your volume. What's that?
Anthony Paralisi, Massachusetts Teachers Association.
Ruth Flaherty, East Gloucester, 4th grade.
Matthew Lewis.
Cynthia. Go ahead, Matt.
He did. You're up, Cynthia.
Cynthia Carney, GTA president and 5th grade teacher at Veterans.
Kathy Clancy, school committee.
And Watson School Committee, just so you know, you don't need to unmute to talk. Yeah, don't unmute.
This microphone there.
Yeah.
Jonathan Coach, school committee.
Gary Fresh, CFO.
Selena Immel, principal at West Parish.
Greg Hagney, council.
Ben Lummis, superintendent.
Learning and Human Resources.
Maria Puglisi, recording secretary.
Great, awesome. So we sent over to you our updated proposals and our counters to your last package. So we will start with our updated proposals. And so number 1, again, no changes. We are still willing to withdraw if we can come to an agreement on GTA number 2, which is now titled a joint labor management team. So in number 2, we've proposed a counter. We tried to address what we felt were the school committee's concerns while at the same time maintaining our interest in creating this team. The idea behind this team is not to be so hyper-focused as the way the school committee proposed. It is meant to be fluid and to address issues as they arise. So the framework that the school committee proposed with, a team for a specific purpose that would, then disband is sort of what already happens when it comes to addressing, particular issues. Some of those issues may arise and be discussed at Joint Labor Management Team, and those sort of task forces, may very well be the solution the team, proposes or suggests as a way to address a particular issue. But for us, this team is meant to be longstanding. It's meant to use an interest-based problem-solving approach to address educational needs, and most importantly, to ensure productive labor management communications. This is a place for us to, be able to come to the administration and say, we're hearing from members that Principal X is, being a little bit salty. So, to use one of my daughter's terms, we're having issues where, there's maybe not a contract violation, but there's a morale issue. There are a variety of problems that could escalate and become more, more explosive is not the word I mean, but become more problematic if we don't address them through this collaborative process. And in locals and in school districts where joint labor management teams or committees exist, they find that they're able to avoid grievances and resolve issues before they reach that level because there's a constant and open line of communication. So we modified our proposal so that the number of these meetings would be reduced at least 5 times a year, down from once every month, so about half. We would propose limiting the number of team members to a total of 12, equal number of union and administration. And that for the purposes of clarity, so that it doesn't just become sort of a nebulous, beating around the bush, and going around and around the circle. Before each meeting, we would propose that co-chairs, one from administration, one from the union, would submit an agenda to each other in advance. We propose 10 days. And that at each meeting, there would be an action plan. There would be, some sort of concrete steps that the team agreed to implement or evaluate, and then a timeline for implementation. Anything that would have a bargaining implication, of course, we respect and reserve all rights, as we know you would as well for impact bargaining. And so anything with bargaining implications would be referred to respective negotiating committees for consideration. And in the last sentence, we propose that the parties would have the right to a facilitator at these meetings when mutually agreed upon. For example, with the interest-based bargaining process, and this is something where, the local will be willing to split the cost if we ever agree to do something like this, where we might bring in a mediator or a third party to help provide some training on interest-based problem solving and lead us through that process in a collaborative way. So not something we would have to do, but that last sentence would give us the option of agreeing to do something like that. So that is our updated proposal for the joint labor management team. 3 remains as it was last time, but we would withdraw if we come to agreement on number 2. Number 4, we provided some possible ways that we could make some release time feasible. And we didn't really get, actually, I don't think we got much of a response last time to our suggestions. What we're doing here now is sort of proposing what we think might be the most palatable of those options. Recall there was 4, including hiring a half-time FTE, which we know is a cost proposal. So number 3 and number 4, we basically merged to reflect the previous practice when the union president was at the high school, wherein the schedule for that person was chunked, so that all of their teaching class, all their teaching periods were in the morning prior to lunch, and afterward, teacher would have lunch, would have prep, and then have one free period at the end of the day to be able to conduct union business. That we don't think is a very costly proposal. We'd be providing one period of coverage per day. And it would allow for the GTA president, whoever that person is, to be able to attend Weingarten meetings, meet with the superintendent, meet with other administrators, and really address a lot of issues that are very, very difficult to deal with outside of the school day. And would provide a better level of communication, more access to communication between the administration and the GTA. So our modified proposal would add language to Article 26 that says the schedule of the association president shall be modified so that their teaching time occurs prior to lunch each day. In addition to one prep period per day, the association president will receive an additional free period per day for union business.
Which is essentially what we had for Andrea when she was the union president. Because she was a program leader at the high school, she had one block reduced by the high school. And then the school committee offered her an additional block off to be that union president. And so she was here for the 4 blocks in the morning. She taught 3 of them. One of them was her prep PLC. Then after lunch, she was free to visit any one of the other schools in our district to deal with members, to deal with issues. She would be available to meet with Dr. Sapphire, who was our superintendent at the time. And so that just frees up time. In this proposal, there isn't a cost to the district. There isn't a cost to GTA members. And additionally, and most importantly, there isn't a loss of face-to-face teaching time with the educator and her students. And then it just makes it fair and easy for any teacher at any level to be a GTA president, as opposed to only in those teachers from secondary schools where the schedules are more easily modified.
Number 5, again, we made a modification back in October, but we did not receive a response to our mentorship article. This again would just provide for a process for mentorship positions to be posted and to provide training for those who would like to perhaps apply for those postings going forward. So number 1 just references that mentoring is offered as required in compliance with the law. Number 2 defines the purpose of the mentorship program and for educators in their first year of practice under the law. Number 3 says that anticipated mentor openings in the district shall be posted by August 1st. And the appointment of mentor shall be made by the superintendent or their designee in collaboration with the mentor program leaders. That a mentor, number 4, would have experience in the Gloucester School District as a unit member with professional teaching status. 5, that each mentor shall receive training prior to beginning their work with a mentee, and no mentor shall undertake mentoring duties until having completed the training. In order to recruit new mentors and ensure a constant pool of mentor candidates each year, the district shall offer training every other year beginning in 2022. And then finally, number 6, a reasonable effort will be made to ensure mentorships are equitably distributed whenever possible to allow qualified mentors a fair opportunity to work with a mentee. Again, we just think it provides structure around how these positions are, how these members are assigned to these positions, and an ability for all members to receive training every other year so they can get into the pool. Because right now I know that there are plenty in the pool, but that may not always be the case. And as members retire, as mentors decide they want to leave the pool, we should have a program to constantly replenish it. So that's our interest in number 6. Number 6, no change. Again, willing to withdraw if we can come to agreement on the joint labor management. Number 7, we accepted your last counter. 8, again, no change. Willing to withdraw if we can agree to a joint labor management team language. Number 9, same thing with community parent engagement. Same with number 10, equitable scheduling for specialists. And number 11, we've modified to withdraw 11.2. And with 11.1, the district has already implemented, so I believe that would mean we have a 10. I just want to, since we're withdrawing 11.2, I didn't mark it yet. I didn't want to be presumptuous, but I assume we do good.
We drafted some tentative agreements that I can send to you at some point. I can interrupt you just, just to review it and let us know that that's what you have as well. So we can get to that when we need to.
That's great, thank you. 12, no change to library services. We think it's important that every school have a library and a dedicated full-time licensed library teacher. And then 13, 14, and 15 are compensation proposals. So 13.1, we're still holding in our request to create a Masters plus 15 and Masters plus 45 column. When it comes to our COLA, our wage proposal, we've made a significant modification that we believe is more equitable for our membership and more palatable than adding new steps to the top at small increments that would change the average increase between steps and near the end of a person's career, really, have just a small increase in those last couple of years as you're getting to the top of the scale. So rather than having a COLA and a new step where some people see different amounts of increase, we propose a straight COLA 3% on the entire scale so that everybody benefits equally. And in the first year, dropping steps 1, 2, and 3. And here's where I have to, and my mistake from our last session, and apologize for misinterpreting the scattergram that I was looking at. As you guys know, I came in late, and it's entirely on me that when I saw a scattergram with all the zeros, I incorrectly assumed it's because we're hiring people above those steps, and I was not caught up with the bargaining history about that. So I apologize for that. We still believe, we have no objection to raising the starting pay. And we would propose dropping the lowest step in each of the 3 years without adding any new steps. That would maintain the difference between the average difference between the steps without creating some steps at 4%, 5%, some steps at 1%. It would bring more lifetime earnings to the contract. So new teachers would get to the top and stay at the top, get there faster and stay there longer. So while the total amount isn't as high as some of our original proposals, once they get to the top sooner, that will have a tremendous benefit to those newer teachers. And so we're proposing a 3% in year 1 with dropping the 2 blank steps and the current bottom step, which is number 3. In FY23, which is year 2, a 2.5% COLA, and again, dropping the lowest step. And in FY24, a 2% COLA, dropping the lower step and renumbering each year.
I just want to clarify. So when you say drop steps 1 through 3, renumber, then step 4 and the current salary schedule would become the new step 1.
Correct, yep, and I have that.
And so, okay,
Here.
yeah, because I saw that you said see attachment, didn't have anything yet, but
I'm sorry. And
that's all right.
and just for clarification purposes, fiscal year 22 would be the 21-22 school year, and should we come to an agreement, the COLA would be retroactive to the first day of school. Fiscal year 23 would be 22-23, and fiscal year 24 is the 23-24 school year.
So yeah, so as you can see in the attachment I just handed you, renumbering, eliminating step 1, 2, and 3. Step 4 would become 1 for all tracks. And we would have a scale that goes from 1 through 10. In year 2, drop the new step 1, renumber. So now we have a 9-step scale. And in year 3, drop the new step 1 and renumber. So we end up with an 8-step scale. I did do some costing. And the total cost over 3 years of new dollars for this proposal comes to $2,159,049. Cost it out the.
You said it again?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
I was able to see too. $2,159,049.
And that's for all 3 years.
That's for all 3 years, yep. New dollars actually decreases each year under our proposal. In year one, it'd be 700, just over 750,000. In year two, just over 719,000, and in year three, just under 690,000. The school committee's proposal we received at our last session in year one was 469, in year two, 498, and in year three, 576, all in hundreds of thousands, for a total of $1,594,646. So that, by my math, puts us at just $564,402 a month. Now, this is new dollars. So this does not include any step changes except for those that occur by dropping the bottom step. Or in your proposal, in moving people on the top step to the new top step you propose. Whoop, I almost took out the mic. So in addition to our financial package, in 13.3, we still are proposing some reasonable changes to personal days, language that matches what exists in other locals. 13.4, we provided some language. We've talked about this in principle about the inclusion of up to 3 paid religious holidays. So we're proposing language that would say unit members who have sincerely held religious belief shall be entitled to leave with pay for up to 3 religious holidays per school year, provided they provide their principal or immediate supervisor with 10 school days notice of their intent to take such leave.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 second, and I apologize. The part on 13.3, on the personal days, there's 4 sections there. Are those the same as the last proposal? Yes. Okay, so that hasn't changed.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, no problem, please, anytime. So 13.4 would just provide some language around the concept that we had proposed, and we'd love to hear your reaction to that. With 13.5, we're amending our longevity proposal to reduce the dollar amounts from $805 in the first level to $700, from $1611 at the second level to $1,500, and from $2,000 at the third level, $2417 to $2,000 at the third level. And then effective in year two, the 22-23 school year, payments made under this section will be adjusted with the negotiated cost of living adjustment. So if we came to agreement on our 3, 2.5, 2, then in the second year, those numbers would get a 2.5% increase, and then in the third year, they'd get a 2%. We've made no change. This is the same as we previously shared with you. 15, 15.1, having COLA apply to all the stipends as agreed to. In 15.2, we've come down from $45 to $40 an hour for our hourly rate proposal. And then effective in year two of this agreement, the 2022-23 school year, that hourly rate would increase with negotiated COLAs. And 15.3, rather than increasing the athletic stipends all at once, we propose phasing them in so that the faculty manager, athletics manager, and head coach stipends would increase by 500 in year one, 500 in year two, and 1,000 in year three. And then all other athletic stipends by $250 each year to get to the same totals.
I'm just reading, trying to understand. I'm having you, yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
All right, just worried.
We should.
Any questions from our group? We're gonna fold and top it over. I think it's an easier way to do this. Do you want to go through the counters that you have as well?
Yeah, I can do that. One second, get that up.
This is the second email?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, school committee number 4. We mentioned this our last session, we gave it to you verbally, so it's in writing now. Our counter is to have the entire year's scheduled meetings provided for the whole year no later than August 20th. With school committee number 5, we agreed to this in principle, although our team members have some questions about how current unit numbers in these positions might be impacted. For example, if they are not physically able to be safety care trained, or if that kind of work is not the kind of work they'd like to be doing going forward. So anyone.
If they become incapacitated.
They get hurt with them.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so if they are safety care trained, but
Yeah.
if they get hurt and then they cannot perform that anymore because of an injury, then what?
Moving forward permanently.
Possibly permanently, but at least moving forward permanently.
Okay.
Additionally, if you're familiar with safety care, there are 2 parts to it. I'm not interrupting you, am I? So there are 2 parts to it, and the first part is a de-escalation part, which has no physical piece to it and would probably be the preferred course of action, right? So when you have a dysregulated student, we want to de-escalate that and bring that student back down to calm or close to calm. So then the second part of safety care contains the holds and the restraints. And I had been safety care trained in the past, and I was speaking with the instructor for safety care, Chris Silvera, and he had mentioned that there's a piece in there that says that if you are not strong enough or unable to carry out the restraints, especially if you have maybe a larger student or a stronger student, especially dysregulated students can become very, very aggressive very quickly, that you shouldn't try to engage those safety care holds. So we would also be open to discussing the 2 different pieces of safety care training, focusing perhaps on the de-escalation piece as opposed to the physical piece. And so that's certainly an area where we want to make sure that our staff members are going to be safe and able to address the needs of their students. We want to make sure that the students, of course, are safe for themselves and for our other students as well.
Just a question on that. So I don't, Ruth, I'm responding to your concern. I have a question with your concern. So, I mean, if someone's injured on a job, doing whatever they do, or whatever job they have, GTA or not, okay, there's allowances for that. There's protocol procedures. Are you making a difference here in terms of this because of this proposal, because of the people in these positions? I don't quite understand the concern, I guess. You see more about it?
So I think I understand what you're saying, and I know of an instance of one of our GTA members who was injured on the job a few years ago.
Right.
Now, currently they are able to perform the duties of safety care if they need to.
Right.
However, in the time that they were unable to perform those duties, we want to make sure that our members will not be punished because they were injured on the job and they were unable to perform those duties.
Or if they couldn't ever go back to
Correct.
performing those duties, what would happen to their position? In all other senses, they're able to perform their job.
Okay, I see.
But they're still
working. Okay,
If I can
understand.
add one thing to that, also for any current employees, if they are currently in a position where they cannot perform those duties, we want to make sure that they have job security as well.
I understand the concern, thank you.
Sorry, that I couldn't hear you with the
No.
mask. It's a little tricky
Sorry.
for me, so I may need to ask for help sometimes when I can't hear you.
No problem, I totally understand that completely.
Number 6. So last time we brought this up, I referenced that the proposal school committee proposes to replace the first sentence in the first paragraph. The first sentence of that first paragraph reads, "The work year of a teacher, other than new personnel who may be required to attend orientation sessions, will begin after Labor Day in years in which Labor Day falls on September 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, and will begin before Labor Day in years in which Labor Day falls September 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th. So we have no interest in removing that sentence at all. The sentence that is similar to the proposed language change does come later. Although educators do already struggle with limited time to prepare their classrooms that day and a half provides for. And to prepare their lessons at the start of the school year. If we were to accept this change, our unit members would have less time to do this work, or be forced to do it on their own time without additional compensation. As such, we cannot accept this proposal. And we would point out again that in the last round of negotiations, the GTA agreed to 14 PLC meetings per year, which could be used for professional development. So
That's the elementary level.
Yes.
still a significant increase in
In their
in their
time.
professional
And it's
development.
I think it would be tough for elementary teachers to vote this in with us.
I was talking.
The intent was not to eliminate that sentence about when the school year starts, just to clarify. It was to address the sentence you guys captured later. We'll clear that up. Formally.
Any other discussion?
Just wanted to point out, I don't know about anybody else, but I think Kathy had a comment that the audio kind of went out and I didn't catch that.
I just said I wanted to be clear as to what, who the 14 hours impacted in the last negotiating agreement.
Thank you.
The PLCs are for elementary teachers, not middle or high.
But this language would affect the elementary teachers in addition to high school.
Your proposal number 2. And in it, it says,
Could you speak up, Jonathan?
Yeah,
I'm so
Jonathan,
sorry.
can't hear you.
It's about the, your proposal on the.
Are you asking about the Joint Labor Management Committee?
Just a clarification.
Yeah, I think if you have a clarification, sure, in terms of what's being proposed.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
I just wanted to hear, it says the parties will agree to action items after each meeting with a timeline for implementation. Is this meeting going to be making action items and implementing solutions?
So based on what the committees bring, what each side brings to the meetings with the agreed upon agenda that we would have already shared with one another, if there are action steps that we could take towards solving those issues or moving forward. So it's not necessary, it's absolutely not a policy making situation, if that's what your concern was, but it was just that we've had this meeting, we brought up these issues, and our next steps in relation to these issues are to defer it to a negotiating team.
We might ask members to draft a survey, and so by next meeting, we'll have a survey. By the meeting after that, we'll have.
There are some serious audio issues. I really am not catching a lot of what's being said.
And also,
We just moved the microphone, Cynthia, so hopefully it'll be a little better.
and the microphone is picking up the typing. And apparently you are a very
I've always
loud
been a very
typist.
loud typer.
You could be a little
Can't miss a
lighter.
lot.
Anthony, I've got a question about the cost comparison. Is it a good time to ask now?
Yeah.
All right, let's hold our questions for them to go through the proposal and
Okay.
and let's talk.
Just so they have a chance to go through it, out of deference to
Whatever.
you
I know
guys.
we're all curious. We got a lot of good questions on our side. Let's hold them.
As teachers, we love answering questions. So we won't let any lesson be interrupted to answer your question. All right, so number 7, with the program leaders, again, we've discussed this, there may very well be an appropriate role for program leaders to play in mentoring new teachers. We're still open to discussion about specific changes, but the way this is written, we can't agree to it. So I know Rich has shared, some insight and feedback with this group before. I know there have been conversations between meetings, that the school committee has a modified proposal that sort of addresses our concerns about evaluation and about changes in their working conditions. We're open to continuing that conversation. But as this is written, we still don't have anything we can agree to. With number 8, again, as we've discussed, this is the library and bridge coverage. We cannot accept this proposal because it affects the work of another bargaining unit with regard to these coverages. We are proposing a library be staffed by a full-time librarian, and like other teachers, a substitute teacher is sometimes necessary for that. But having gate people already have this duty in their contract, we can't agree to it. Number 9, we are willing to accept, I think we told you this last time, but just to put it in writing, number 9, we have a TA on your counter for parent communication. So we accept the absent extenuating circumstances within 2 days language.
I think I had that in the TA, so just make sure that language reflects that.
With number 12, restrictions on sick leave, we continue to reject this proposal. Our members are very clear. They're just not going to agree to any contract that places new restrictions on their sick leave. With number 13, same goes. Our members will not agree to restrictions on personal leave. We think we have a reasonable proposal in our package that we would again ask you to consider. Number 15, we don't have a specific objection to the proposal. We just need to know exactly where we're going to put it. And then we can TA that, if it makes sense. 16, we've already TA'd. 17, we continue to reject this proposal. High school educators are already using the homeroom time for many of the purposes indicated in the proposal. Even when materials are provided to educators, they do still have to do prep time. They have to review them, count the copies, make sure they understand the instructions, just to be able to implement it. And so this would require additional work without pay, while leaving less time during homeroom for educators to develop the relationships. We agree should be established, establish routines, lead whole group discussions, or assist individual groups of students in the activities described. With the changes to the O'Malley Innovation Middle School prep time, again, GTA rejects. Our members won't agree to this proposal as it is inequitable. And for 19 and 20, we actually propose sort of counter combines the two into a single new piece of language for Article 23. So we would counter that we combine 19 and 20 so that we have new language that says a committee of teachers and administrators shall meet regularly to research, identify, and publish a catalog of pre-approved graduate credit courses. This would have the dual benefit of ensuring high-quality coursework for our teachers, while also providing teachers with a locally curated resource from which to choose relevant courses from a range of subject areas and grade levels. Said committee, to be comprised of not more than 4 GTA members and no more than 4 administrators, will meet annually to create a list of acceptable courses from acceptable providers. The list will be updated each year. For the 2021-22 school year and all subsequent years, the group will meet by March 1st. The committee will determine which criteria would apply to all distance online learning courses that are submitted for approval and subsequent movement on the salary scale. We then propose striking all of those criteria. Is our position that the committee would determine its own criteria from year to year, that criteria could be subject to change. Although many of these things, are not objectionable on their surface. If there's a committee formed, if they're going to create a catalog, they're going to put it out there and say, these courses are pre-approved, sign up for them and you're good to go. Then we don't see the need to pigeonhole the criteria in this way when circumstances may change in the future and we may be boxed into this language that may not always be relevant.
Okay.
That's the end.
Thank you. I think we're probably going to need a sizable caucus in order to be able to go through and formulate thoughts.
Sure.
Most obvious question being, where do we caucus?
Oh, well, we're gonna stay here. You guys have.
We can go to Rich's room down the hall.
Yeah, you go anywhere you like. Yeah, there's all 20, right across the hall's open as well.
My classroom's already there.
Excellent.
Okay.
So at some point, feel free to knock or we'll come down and knock.
Right, or-
Give you an update.
Kathy can text me.
Sure, yeah.
Very good.
Well, we should come to the Wi-Fi. I know where to find you.
I do.
2215.
2215.
15. Last room on the left.
It'll be the only room with the light on.
True.
Okay.
Rich, do you want your water?
I'm coming back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank
Come back.
you.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Maria, roll call vote, please.
Kathy?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
And Sam?
Yes.
I wonder, I don't think, yeah.
So find the newer one?
Yeah, I'm gonna run down. Did you lock your door?
We'll vote for it, yeah, executive session.
Okay. I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah.
That's, that's me. I was a member in Haverhill, drew that when we were last 2 summers ago, the very first reopening, 2020. Forgot that was my picture.
Nobody likes mine because I'm holding a snake.
No other meeting? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, we only have one scheduled out.
We just have one scheduled.
Is it internet here? Leave Angela. Just wait for Teresa, I assume.
There she comes.
Yeah.
That's not sitting like that.
Here we go. Let me just dive in. Thank you for giving us time to talk that over. There are a few proposals that you had made that we have clarifying questions that we'd like to ask and just dialogue a little bit about with you. Also, just thank you for the comprehensiveness of the proposals that you made. It's clear that you put a lot of thought into them. We need to still have discussion on our end, and I think some of the questions that we have will certainly inform that. So there's just a few different items on the initial proposals that you had made, the initial set of proposals I made that we just wanted to ask about. The first one being the Joint Labor Management Committee. Sam, do you want to ask the questions that you have, and then we can kind of, I think that'll probably just jump us into a little bit of a discussion about it.
So no surprise here, right? As a social worker in the room, I love the idea of a group coming together, a team coming together, focusing on a defined problem and working together, working together to sort of come. I love that idea, especially love it when the diverse group of teachers and administrators working together to make that happen. So you define it as interest-based problem solving. Can you just break that down for me? Like, what does that look like for you?
So interest-based problem solving is actually a specific method of problem solving that through the federal mediation services, they would bring in, if we were to agree to bring in a facilitator through them, they would provide training. And basically, and we did this once when I was local president in payroll over scheduling, for example. So rather than being two separate rooms with a mediator going back and forth, we're actually all in one room. We would all do the training together, and the facilitator would help to identify what is the common problem that the group had identified, and what is the interest of both sides, and then work through their process to come at a solution that both groups might be agreeable to. Depending on the issue, it can be relatively quick, or it can take a little bit more time, a couple of meetings. But it's not a positional thing. It's one where there's a shared, there's a common understanding of what the problem is. There is an understanding of what each group's interests are, and then the mediator tries to find the common ground, or the facilitator tries to find the common ground in between those two interests, where they might diverge.
So I guess where I struggle is, I don't see this group necessarily as, there's like an assumption that there's a problem between the two groups, which I don't really see that group necessarily like that being the issue, right? Like I sort of look at this team as a way to sort of come together to problem solve or come up with solutions about an issue that impacts the entire district, not necessarily a problem between two groups. Does that make sense?
It
So-
does.
Go ahead.
It does, but did you have more to say? I didn't mean to interrupt you. So if you had a chance to look through the proposals that we were willing to withdraw because you would have accepted this joint labor management team proposal, there are many different issues that are occurring within the district. A lot of the issues we've brought up as proposals and brought up as solutions to proposals. And in many of the instances, you've rejected those proposals because you've spoken with your principals and it's not a problem. We've spoken with our membership and we find that it is a problem. So there's a disconnect between what we see as issues and not issues. So partly a joint labor management team can come together and some of those issues could be brought up. One of them is the issue, I believe, of ensuring that mentors could be rotated around when they're applicable. And if you looked at another one of the issues, it might deal with scheduling, like Beaman has that special vote and has their unique situation. So if that was happening in other schools, that would be a great place to bring that question. And so if you looked at the other proposals that we were willing to withdraw, those are proposals that you have rejected or that you didn't agree with, but we still see those as issues. And so also, we teachers are desperate to improve relationships between our principals and with administrators up at the main office and with a new superintendent in town. Like, this is a great opportunity to foster those. This is the second CBA that I've been a party to negotiating. Prior to that, I was never on the negotiating team. And in many instances, our negotiations can get pretty combative, cantankerous. And I think that if we can have this joint labor management team, we're gonna start to build relationships with principals, and even like teachers in other schools will be building relationships with other principals, right? And so that it just strengthens the bond between us. And I think that moving forward, if we meet more regularly and kind of get on a more level playing field where we're trying to solve the issues that might be unique to one school or might affect the entire district, it's going to strengthen the relationship between the key players in Gloucester Public Schools education. And therefore, every single student in the district of Gloucester is going to benefit from that.
Yeah.
And so that's from where we're coming at to solve this problem. I mean, this is where we're coming at with this proposal. And we've been asking for this kind of a committee or this kind of a team for quite some time now. And so we're really, really hopeful that you'll consider it with the modifications that we've included. And we also really thoughtfully looked at the counter that you had offered us based on this joint labor management team. And we really tried to incorporate pieces of that as well, so that it's a shared responsibility. It's a joint committee where we each have a stake and we each have ownership and we can move forward.
And Rachel, you did a really
I
nice
could-
job. I just want to add
Yep.
a safe spot for administrators and members to come together if there is an issue. Because there are members who don't speak up because they don't feel comfortable. It's just who they are, it's their personality. So I think if there's any underlying issues and it bubbles up in a building, this would be a nice safe spot for people to go to have these conversations.
So what Ruth is
Additionally-
saying is that for real, I'm sorry to interrupt something, but there are teachers who are not comfortable bringing up issues to their principal. And so this would create, like Ruth said, that safe area to do that. And I think, did I cut you off, Cynthia? I apologize.
Well, I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what you were saying. And we're looking at it as taking a proactive approach to resolve problems, but not only that, but to create a culture where teachers participate more fully, which in turn creates a better professional culture, which trickles down to all those things that Rachel said before. So it's really encompassing our whole culture here, and being problem solving together and being proactive about it and not reactive.
Just one other clarifying question. So if I'm understanding your proposal correctly, that there would be like a set group of teachers that participate?
Every 2 years, and that would change.
Okay. And so I guess like for the people who aren't comfortable bringing issues up, if there's a topic that they want to be involved in, those 6 people are the ones participating in the group for those full 2 years, how then can we increase more participation amongst teachers that don't really feel like they have a voice?
So
Maybe you could have a guest speaker come in, maybe a teacher has a trusted friend, or maybe a teacher is comfortable talking to either myself or Cynthia. And then maybe we could get that information to one of the team members.
And it's not a maybe, that would be the work of the association, would be to solicit the feedback from the membership to bring. So, when the co-chairs are going to just like you have your executive session meetings, when our executive committee is thinking about what agenda would we propose, that is based on feedback from our building representatives, from 10-minute meetings we're having, and the 12 people or the 6 people that would be appointed would be engaging with the membership so that they'd be speaking on their behalf. And if there was a particular issue where somebody not on the team would have particular knowledge, then the team could agree to allow a person to come in to make a presentation or speak to that issue. So it wouldn't preclude, having a permanent team wouldn't in any way limit members' voice. It's the place where members would be able to express their voice. So
If I could
those that
follow up
aren't
with that as well.
putting themselves out in front would have a representative that could speak to their issues and raise them with the administration.
Cynthia, what was that?
Right, well, what we had said before, and Samantha, you weren't here at the time, like Anthony said, it would not preclude anybody to come in and speak on behalf of a topic. For instance, if we were discussing a new science curriculum that we're having trouble with, we would bring science teachers in and discuss, issues on that particular area. We had a similar committee years ago called the CCC. And for the life of me, I can't remember what that acronym stood for. But at any rate, it was the same type of thing. It was labor management. We talked about topics of problematic, issues, and it worked. So we just want to make sure that we have equal say and equal parts and a collaborative approach again. And again, people that are knowledgeable about what the topic that we're talking about will certainly be in the discussion. I mean, that just makes sense.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Cynthia, but I think you're ending there. There's a couple of other things we wanted to ask about, and I know that we only have not that much time left, but let me just sort of remark upon this subject for a second, which is It seems to me there is common ground in the sense that, Rachel, you mentioned that there are specific issues that a committee or a team could be looking at. And that is what drove the framework behind our proposal, which is that it was issue-specific teams that would work towards problem solving and finalizing that specific issue, which is conceptually different, I think, from what I'm hearing. And I say that, let me just try to get this out because I'm trying to sort of articulate in a way so that you can understand how we view it differently than I think the way that you're viewing it. So we're looking at having sort of issue-specific teams along the lines of what we had talked about. We identified some of those issues. I think the ones that you identified are things that we would say, yes, exactly. That's exactly the kind of thing that a team could look at and problem solve about. Different than having some kind of a joint labor management committee or whatever we're talking about it. Now I'm going to use the example that Anthony had used previously, where someone's going to get salty about the principal. I think you said that in jest. I'm not using that because I think necessarily, and I would hope this isn't the case, that's the purpose of this committee, because I would say that would be an inappropriate use of the time to have a committee where you're having all these members around, the administration around, to hear sort of a bit of someone getting salty about a principal. That's not to say, of course, that we wouldn't want to be able to strengthen.
If I could just clarify
relationships. But hold
I
on.
was trying to find a way to
No,
capture that. So morale issue.
Okay, yeah.
Members are concerned because their principal seems to be having trouble with the building.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that I think is where.
I only meant to use that as an example to try to juxtapose the two, right? Meaning we're looking at a specific district-wide issue versus just something that would be frankly a personnel matter, right? There's sort of two very different, starkly different views of what the Joint Labor Management Committee, or again, what we're going to use or potentially use as a team building concept, and how to do that. And that's what drove the framework that we were trying to propose in terms of why we would do it that way, okay? So I want to convey that just so you all understand that that's how we see it. I know I'm not trying to cut you off, Rachel. I want you to be able to talk. I just also want to be cognizant of the time because we have a couple other things that we wanted to ask about. So
Because of that, because of what you gave to us, we'll come back, having answered your questions, thank you. We'll come back with a counter and, keep working towards it.
But I want to be clear we found that your counter proposal on the joint labor management team really pigeonholed us. And we wanted this to not only be a team where we work together to solve issues that may come up that could be very specific, but also in the bigger picture, we really feel, especially where with the previous superintendent, our labor management relationships really deteriorated. We really want to build that back up again, and we really want to re-engage and become more collaborative. To me, this feels a lot like an us and them situation, and it shouldn't. We should be able to sit down at the table and kind of talk freely. Like, you should be like, these are the things that we're looking for, and we should be able to say, these are the things that we're looking for, and then we should be able to look at it and find common ground. But oftentimes, sometimes the questions from either side can get really nitpicky, and sometimes they can seem really condescending. And if we can improve our joint labor management relationships while also solving maybe building specific or specific issues, we're going to strengthen the district, we're going to strengthen our relationships, and we're going to improve the learning environment for all the students in Gloucester. So this team is more than just solving specific issues, right? It has a greater focus and a greater goal to improving relations between administration and teachers and moving the district forward together in a positive way. So I just, when you're having your discussions and moving forward with this particular proposal, keep in mind that there's a much bigger picture here than just solving these minor issues. And a personnel issue obviously would never come to this committee and would never be solved in this manner.
okay, thank you. And I think it's probably worth at this point just moving on to our other question.
But if you have more to discuss, and if we wanted to take a vote to extend the time.
I don't think,
We have some other things we want to ask you about.
I don't think they're gonna be entirely all that lengthy, so if we can reach a couple of extra minutes. We can get through them. So the second one was on the mentorship proposal. And again, I think Sam had sort of a specific question on it.
Yeah, being new to the process, I would just love for you to sort of articulate and elaborate on sort of the problem as you see it.
Really, basically, I'm gonna defer to both Rich and Teresa as our mentor leaders, unless you want me to.
No, that's fine. I think one of the issues is, by the way, before I go on to this, we just finished the mentoring course. And we've got 11 new mentors coming in for the fall. One of the issues is that we have seen at some locations an equitable distribution of mentoring. And so a lot of it has to do with the communication between the mentor leaders and the principals. In our proposal, it says that the superintendent or his designee would be picking with the consultation of the mentor leaders. And that's not, from what we're hearing, that's not happening everywhere. I can attest from my own experience working with James, we've never had that problem. We've been able to go back and forth, but we don't believe that that's the case everywhere. And so we really just want to be able to make sure that conversations are being made. Now, one of the issues that we have had at the elementary level is we're on our third mentor leader in less than 3 years. Because of, personal situations and things like that. And so, maybe now that we've got it all kind of solidified, that could possibly happen. But we want to at least make sure that those conversations are being had so that people who are qualified to be mentors get the looks that they should. And
they're not bypassed. They're not bypassed for whatever reason. And at O'Malley, Lynn and I sit down. One note I made is I would love to have mentors designated even before the positions are filled, because as we experienced this past year, we had a lot of empty positions that still needed mentors and demanded them, and it was kind of like a catch-up. But the fact that certain schools, and I think it is more at the elementary level, where the same people are being tapped into doing the job. And for whatever reason, we have these courses every 2 years to bring in new mentors. And if they don't get a chance, they can't spread their wings. And it's part of their professional development also, not just for the mentee, but it's for the mentor. And I think they become better teachers and they become more self-aware of who they are as a teacher. So to have the same one over and over again, I just think that we need to open our eyes at certain levels of our mentor program and reach out to the others that are well qualified and just waiting to be tapped into.
Teresa, can you said something that I didn't understand, which is having them named before the positions are.
Oh, because we were scrambling, we were kind of scrambling at O'Malley because we had some positions that weren't filled.
Yeah, I understand.
And if we could have the mentors lined up, ready to go the day we are hired, the position is filled, that they know who the mentor is. And I think.
So if you're hiring an elementary teacher,
yeah.
you might have the mentor lined up.
Already
before you
tapped,
fill the
yeah.
position.
And so they know, they've committed and they're willing and able, and they know that at any time we could be calling them and saying, hey, you need to attend a mentor meeting, or hey, you need to touch base with this, new teacher that just came in and we're in the third week of school, when they probably needed even more than the one that came in during orientation.
Marty, sorry to interrupt. It is 7:03. Do we need to vote to extend?
I don't know if we need to vote if we.
I don't know what the rules are.
I don't think we voted before.
We just.
And I think if we're in agreement to go for a few more minutes, we can do that, hopefully a bit more informally. I appreciate that suggestion, Matt. I wasn't trying.
Does that make sense, Ben? Does that make,
It does. I'm not sure if it's an anomaly for this past year, which, as you know, people, districts across the.
I understand, but it's even happened in other years.
Which I think if this year wasn't an anomaly, then it's even more important that we do that.
No, this is what I'd like to know, but it is an anomaly. So I can ask a lot of questions on this. I think it's important to straighten this out and then make sure. I'm not sure what equitably means in this. Like, I don't understand what equity
That
is.
the same persons aren't tapped every single year, and that the mentor program leader at every grade level is able to work with all principals in all the different schools to say, okay, we've had this mentor
7 times.
for 7 times.
Over the last 7 years.
So that
Can we
language-
please see who else is on the?
So just like that language makes much more sense to me than the term equitably assigned. Like that could mean anything.
Right.
We
just want to make
So-
sure that you don't
Yeah.
keep picking Rachel Rex as the mentor
Right.
when there are other eligible mentors that could also
Right,
do that should also have a chance.
yeah.
So I don't want to go down a route. I mean, I could ask a lot more questions, but I do think that, well, I guess ultimately, one of the questions I have on this isn't that it's not an important issue to address and deal with and solve, is whether or not this type of thing belongs to CBA.
Well,
It's a position that's paid
Yeah.
or you earn credit
It's a
for, so
stipend.
why wouldn't it be?
Yeah,
Well, the level of detail that we're talking about in terms of assigning all those things, to those people, I just don't know. I think it's a real question.
Okay.
And as you said, it hasn't been up to this date. It'd be a new article, so that's a question I think we'll wrestle with some more.
but this would be a great example of what the JLNT would deal with.
Agreed, and I think in our proposal, it's one of the examples we use.
Yeah, we had a similar thought about that. Yep. Let me just go through there's 2 more. The last one is sort of a clarification or a note. So you had indicated that you would accept, it's on Union Proposal 7, the conference participation, that you would accept the TA, the language. I think the way you had said it, I'm trying to hold to it, but I just want to understand it, that it was language that we had last provided to you in terms of the 3.5 days and as needed.
Yep.
So we talked about it, and the last language that we had provided was rather than as needed was if requested by parents.
As needed, if requested.
Yeah, as needed or.
I mean, wouldn't that be needed if a parent requested it?
So I think if you remember, I think what we had talked about was ensuring that if a parent had requested a conference, then certainly they would have the conference.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. So I think
absolutely.
if we have that language in there, then we're otherwise okay, rather than as needed, just to clarify that that was the idea.
So,
I think it's a simple one. I just wanted to just make sure that we're okay with that.
There are 2 pieces. One is the teacher recognizes that a child,
Yes.
need to come in. Or second, a parent wants their child who may be doing perfectly fine, but they want to touch base as well.
so a teacher would think that would be needed, right? If the parent wants to see them, or if the student, well,
I don't think.
let me defer to the elementary teachers because it's not
To
my
be
area.
honest, anytime a parent asks for one, whether it's
That's-
conference time or not.
Exactly, and that's
Yeah,
what we're
that's all.
saying, that it should be, if they request it, whether you think the kid's doing fine or not, their request should be. So
In
that's the language we're looking.
Understood, but I mean, I would say that would suffice as, that would be one of the very definitions of as needed.
Well,
So are you
But again,
proposing adding
So I think it should
additional
be,
words to that
if I may,
sentence?
just to make it all inclusive, because I'm hearing what you're saying, is it should be as needed, because you think that's more of a catch-all, which I understand, or if requested by parents. That satisfies both.
I guess what Rachel's saying, is she's saying as needed is if a parent.
Right, and we just, that's what we had talked about, was just having
And you
that
need to
extra
have that
part in there.
specifically
Yeah,
lined
and I think it's both, I think it solves both, so.
because on October 18th, in the document you guys gave us, the as needed if requested by parents language was in there, and now it's not. So
it was, I think,
It's probably just a.
I think it was a glitch, and that's why we're just clarifying it. So again, I think it's just an easy
I hear
one.
what you're saying.
Yeah. So I
And
think
then
we.
that's, I'm sorry to interrupt. That's our current practice. If any parent ever asks for a conference,
No,
we
we get it,
absolutely do
yeah.
that. And we have done that forever.
Get it, thank you. So that's an easy, so I think we have that TA just adding that in, just as a, okay. And then the last one is on salary. We just had a few questions.
And before the questions, I just wanted to say thank you for coming back with something different.
Yeah, and we want to make a deal.
Yes, to be clear, we are eager to make a deal. I don't want to
Sure,
see
everybody
it.
agrees. We want to
Yeah,
get
no,
to a
thank you.
resolution.
So you had sent that you had provided the chart with the year 1, year 2, year 3, right? So the question I had was what, and if you said it, I didn't catch it. What goes into those numbers? Is that strictly COLA?
So that is COLA only,
Okay,
and whenever a step is, like when the bottom step is deleted,
yeah.
people who are on that step move up to the new, the new lowest step.
So it wouldn't be other natural steps, the lanes,
No other natural steps and no lanes. Correct.
longevity is not in
Correct,
that
it is just, yeah,
stipends?
it is just the scales.
Okay, just a scale. So all the other things that,
And it doesn't include the new tracks you propose in M15 and 45, right?
It does not include the
Yeah,
judges,
okay.
no,
And then the athletics increase or the hourly rate increase as well, either, right?
correct.
Okay, all right.
thank you. And the other question is on the renumbering of the steps, the way that you did it. So we're just curious what the benefit to doing that is. How do you see that working? Why do you see that working?
So
What's the value in that?
for one, the value, as the school committee indicated, would be, it raises the starting pay. So for all new teachers, they'd be coming in at a higher rate. And then if they have military or Peace Corps service, you can advance them either 2 or 3, or 3 or 2 years on top of that. Secondly, by reducing the total number of steps of the scale, it increases the lifetime earnings of any new teacher who comes into the district. The faster you can get to the top step and stay there, the more money you will make over the course of a career. So if people can get to our new top step of, close to $100,000 within 8 years compared to the 11 years it had previously taken, then they will make more money over their career. And when we negotiate future COLAs, those increases will again compound and improve their lifetime earnings as they get to retirement. So philosophically, we always believe a shorter scale is better, that the steps before the top are discounts that the school committee gets for the work that educators do. That the top step is actually the professional wage. And ideally, we'd have no steps. There'd be one wage. Everybody who gets hired would earn that, and we would negotiate COLAs every couple of years. So in having an 11-step scale, it's a little bit longer than we'd like. Statewide, we traditionally tend to advocate for shorter steps. 7 is actually our target for every contract that we negotiate. And again, it's a way of putting more money in people's pockets over the long run by getting them to the top of the scale over a shorter period of time. And again, the reason why we have withdrawn our new top step in favor of a higher COLA across the board is in doing the math and thinking about what our members might vote for and what they might find to be most equitable and fair. Having a COLA for 48% of our members, and then a COLA plus a new step for 52% of our members isn't as attractive as having a much better contract for everybody, a much better salary scale for the entire unit.
Okay, so a couple more granular questions. One being, so how do you deal with something like the years of service for a particular member and how that plays out in terms of where they would be on the step?
So steps do not necessarily equate to years of service. When a new person is hired into the district and they were on masters plus 15, which doesn't exist here, they're likely going to negotiate with administration and find a cell that matches closest to where they are. They might have 20 years experience, but they're going to be put on step 11 versus 12 or 13 here in this district. That practice would still continue. So the steps don't actually equate to years unless you started here in your first year of education on step 1. Steps are, again, a way to gradually get people to their professional wage over time. It allows school districts to be able to budget That's why, again, we don't look at step raises, step increases as raises, because they're part of the calculations that employees and the employer should be doing as they budget from one year to the next.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, do you foresee there being any issues with any of your teachers, right? That, so they would be on step 7 and then they go to step 4? Like, how would you deal with that?
It's just the label. We could,
Okay.
we
So
could
you
call
don't
it,
think
call
that
it,
would be,
we could call them A, B, C, D, and F instead of numbers. We don't see that being an issue because our members know that we don't equate steps to years. A step is just your placement on the scale. You could have 15 years experience, you're gonna be on step 11 or, step 13 under this current scale. Because there is no.
29 years experience, step 13. Throwing that out there.
And you go to another district and they have an 11-step scale and she might go to step 11. She wouldn't say, I'm losing 2 years experience because she moved to a new district and their top step is 11 and that's where she is. So our members understand and that's all, that would be the work that the association has to, undertake in terms of promoting an agreement and getting our members to ratify it and say, don't worry about the number step you're on. It's not your number of years. It is the step you are on the scale on your path to a professional educator's wage.
And it's not like there would be a paid decrease there, so it shouldn't be a problem at all with members.
If we were bumping them down to step 4 and taking away $1,000, that would be a much bigger issue.
I think it's just, it's a visual thing that some people might have a hard time wrapping their head around and,
So
They don't look at the step numbers, they look at the dollar.
Yeah,
So say someone has 3 years of experience already someplace else. They come here, would they be hired on step 4? And if so, that's the same dollar amount that someone who's on step 7, who has been on step 7. Does that cause
So-
problems?
I don't see that as a problem. Rising tide lifts all boats. You could hire somebody tomorrow, give them credit for their experience and hire them on, step 7. And I'm on step 7. I've been here for 7 years. That's fine. There are people you could hire with the additional credits for their military service, their Greenpeace service, and no one begrudges them if they come in on 7 + 3 and go to 10. Our job is to help our members understand why this is beneficial to the union. This is beneficial to the entire unit to have a shorter scale, to have a higher starting salary, that somebody coming in with 3 years experience and going to what is now called step 3, but used to be step 7, doesn't change the fact that the person who was on step 7 went to step 8 and then we changed the number to 4.
And it totally aligns with the shared goal that we want to attract and retain highly qualified teachers.
So if we hire because I will not be here forever. Well, might be, who knows.
They get 8 years.
So if Sabrina hired someone who had 6 years experience, so going to 7th year, and they put them on the same place that a person who's been here for 7 years is, okay, which is the new step 4, we wouldn't see any problems with that. Because it's not years of service.
Correct.
This has happened
Do
in
you
the
think
past.
if I'm explaining that to a new hire, they would come here?
Depends on what they were making in their previous district.
and
perhaps.
are you gonna give them professional status?
And-
Good.
Right, and it depends on what they have to offer and what their grounds for accepting the position entails.
If I may interject, here, I'm kind of lost with this line of questioning. Or what are we getting at here? Because I think this is 2 roads. One, it's a clarifying, which is fine. But I also want to be careful because it sounds like we're trying to envision a problem that we are very confident wouldn't happen. Now, maybe a new hire, you'd have to explain, we'd have that discussion. If someone in GTA is at the table when we're hiring them, that would be the time for that discussion. But I'm trying to figure out where this line of questioning is coming from.
They're trying to understand your proposal.
Yeah, I think it's purely trying to understand the proposal
Okay.
and the permutations that could occur as a result of it. I mean, it's understandable.
Got
And so I think that's all we have in terms of questions. Very helpful, thank you. And when is our next meeting? It
December
is
13th.
So you said
2 weeks from tonight.
Yeah.
If you could have something in writing for us prior to the meeting that we could review to expedite the situation, we would be
We will
very
certainly,
grateful.
we'll certainly make that a goal.
Yeah, we know sometimes,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
we weren't able to get it to you any sooner,
Yeah.
the holidays and everything made it tough for us, so we get it.
Tough time of year. I mean, it's a great time.
Yeah. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It's the most wonderful time.
Thank you all. It's good to meet you guys here.
To any GTA members who are still on, thank you so much for attending. We'll be hosting a debrief starting in about 5 minutes. And that link has been sent to your home email. Thank you.
And I think are we setting any more dates here or? Because we're 5 minutes now. You don't want to get it done on the 13th?
You're not confident?
I'd really like.
I'm
us to
quite
finish this on the
optimistic.
13th.
All right, if you guys want to be that optimistic, that's fine.
Do you want to add another, do you have dates in mind? I mean, if you've
We had-
selected dates.
We hadn't discussed any yet.
Oh, so you hadn't discussed any?
Well,
Do you want to, if you come up with any, do you want to just send us an email between now and then so we
Sure,
can
let's do it.
kind
I
of
think
have an
that's
answer
probably
ready
the
for
easiest way
you?
to do it, yeah.
Perfect.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy Hanukkah to
Yeah,
anybody
happy
who is
Hanukkah.
celebrating from home
Mary, Mary.
or here.
Thanks, everyone, for coming tonight. We
Yeah,
appreciate you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let me not get everything down. There you go. We'll get Rich was done. Okay. All right.
Oh, no, we had it. Stuff like this because I marked it.
Last time I left here, my pen was.
Put these around, don't step on me. This is why I have a bag. Good night, all.
Good night. Thank you.
Second.
Kathy.
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
Sam.
Yes.